What if the Tyler Perry you thought you knew was just the version he wanted you to see? The one dressed in faith, family values, and empowerment. But what if, behind that image, there's a side of the empire that's been hidden from the spotlight until now? Because something just happened that has Hollywood insiders whispering, longtime fans confused, and even his closest allies questioning everything. This isn't just about a public figure facing rumors. It's about a man whose brand was built on struggle, redemption, and purpose, now caught in a storm of secrets, silence, and serious accusations. In today's video, we're peeling back the curtain on the controversy shaking the Tyler Perry legacy, revealing the details no one expected, and the fallout that could change everything. A bombshell recording has surfaced, and it's not just some anonymous leak. It came from someone deep inside Tyler Perry's trusted circle. Gospel icon and longtime friend, David Mann was the one who had the audio, and what it reveals is sending shockwaves through the entire entertainment world. This wasn't tabloid gossip or internet speculation. This was raw, behind-the-scenes truth. A truth that threatens to shatter the carefully crafted image of a man millions have admired for decades. Tyler Perry, the man praised for overcoming poverty and racism to build a billion-dollar empire, has always worn the armor of inspiration. But behind that armor, cracks have long existed, whispers of manipulation, control, and toxic leadership that many were too afraid to say out loud. That is, until now. Because buried in this recording is the voice of Dar, a former assistant dismissed years ago as bitter and irrelevant. But now, with David Mann's tape backing him up, everything Dar claimed is beginning to sound frighteningly real. He had spent decades with Tyler, as had his wife, Tamala. On screen and off-screen, they were family. From gospel tours to successful motion pictures, David was a dependable, well-liked, and devoted member of the Perry Group. People were therefore shocked to learn that he was the one who made the tape public. Why would he risk everything for someone like him? The choice wasn't simple, let me tell you. According to people close to David, he concealed the recording for several months. He felt conflicted. He had spiritual turmoil. He was terrified of the consequences if the tape ever leaked, even though he was aware of what he heard on it. When it became clear how the recording actually occurred, the narrative took an even more profound turn. There was no plan. During a private meeting with Tyler's inner circle, David had his equipment running and was working on a podcast project. He didn't mistakenly record a casual conversation. He was unable to unhear the sound. The uncensored, off-camera version of Tyler Perry was a far cry from the public persona. Insiders who listened to the recording claimed that Tyler was expressing his frustration, but not in a typical manner. It was arrogant, snarky, and harsh. According to reports, he was making fun of some of the performers he had started his career with, making jokes about their appearance, family issues, and even calling one washed up. He described how, in order to maintain loyalty, he made false promises. However, things start to become interesting at this point. According to reports, he also uttered something that made David shiver. I provided them with a stage. They now believe they can betray me. They must keep in mind who created them and who has the power to stop them. David stopped everything after hearing that one line. According to reports, he stopped the replay, sat in silence for hours, and began to view things in a different light. All of a sudden, the tales that Dar had told for years seemed to be true. They were authentic. They sensed trouble, because this is the most absurd part. In that tape, Tyler also made reference to Dar, calling him a nobody. He laughed, claimed to have mental health problems, and to be resentful of being caught stealing. Tyler dismissed Dar's assertions as if they were unimportant, but his tone, confidence, and manner of speaking sounded exactly like the man Dar had forewarned about. Let's go back a bit. Dar was who? Why was it so easy to overlook his story? Tyler had been Dar's direct boss back in the early 2000s. He was youthful, aspirational, and supportive of the idea. However, he was abruptly dismissed under peculiar circumstances after 2 years. Years later, fragments of his story began to surface in underground podcasts, brief interviews, and secret blog entries. According to him, Tyler Perry Studios is a place of control and terror. Strict NDAs were required of the staff. Individuals were traced, observed, and emotionally coerced. According to Dar, Tyler would discreetly blacklist anyone who attempted to quit or voice their opinions, ensuring they never again worked in the field. These claims didn't garner much attention at the time, but they have recently returned with a vengeance. I know how to make people disappear, not physically, but spiritually. I can make the world forget about them. At the time, everyone assumed it was a strange joke or a dramatic metaphor, but Dar even claimed that Tyler had told him in secret. However, after listening to David's leaked audio, Tyler states, "I made them. I can end them." The connection feels impossible to ignore. Dar was the only person who dared to speak up before the world learned about the recording, and David Mann made the audacious decision to go public. However, nobody paid attention. People began to pay attention after the tape leak verified some of his more sinister assertions. However, this is where the narrative took an odd and surprising turn, because Dar's old interviews and blogs began to reappear after years of silence. Digging started, and what they discovered fueled the already raging argument. Dar revealed terrifying information about his time working inside Tyler Perry Studios in a little-known 2019 podcast. He characterized it as a place where dread reigned rather than as a creative paradise. According to him, emotional control was used to compel workers to remain faithful. When someone outlived their usefulness, the Tyler would tear them down after uplifting them. What distinguishes this story from others? Dar didn't sound resentful. His voice was broken. He talked about how people were forced to sign stringent NDAs for the tiniest things in that same interview. Even background workers were prohibited from speaking openly. Additionally, if someone attempted to depart on poor terms, word got out fast and all doors abruptly closed. Let me tell you, the thing that frightened people the most was not just what Dar stated, but also how well it matched the tape that David shared. According to reports, David made a startling comparison between the recording and the podcast. The way Tyler boasted about no one having the courage to speak up, joked about managing careers, and denigrated previous cast members. Everything was there. According to one of Dar's scariest allegations, Tyler told him, "I don't have to destroy people publicly. I just make calls. I know people's secrets, their past. I use that." Fans began making connections when the comment resurfaced, and the resulting image was unsettling. David, who had prayed and joked with Tyler before, was now unable to deny what he had heard. The fans couldn't either. Here's the startling bit though. The industry said nothing in spite of all of this. The story was not carried by any major media. No famous person talked about it in public. And David, he was left on his own, under constant strain. David's phone continued to ring after the video dropped, according to close pals. However, it wasn't encouragement, rather, it was caution. Some from influential figures in the entertainment industry and others from other gospel musicians. He was warned to keep quiet since he was tampering with something greater than himself. However, David had already gone too far. He was unable to go back. It becomes intriguing at this point. Something more profound was taking place behind closed doors while the world was preoccupied with social media trends and celebrity drama. Rumor had it that David had begun to hear whispers of people who had remained silent and others who had something to tell. Allegedly, a former production assistant who claimed to have been present at the meeting where the recording was made an anonymous call. Along with other things, they validated Tyler's scathing remarks. This individual, who wishes to remain anonymous, asserted that David's release only represented a portion of the conversation. Rumors of a second recording started to circulate at that point. Yes, you heard correctly. Another tape, a longer, more devastating audio recording that might reveal Tyler Perry's inner circle in its entirety. A person close to the man's family claims that David initially had no plans to make any public announcements. He simply wished to discuss the matter as brothers in private with Tyler. However, Perry allegedly brushed the recording aside when he showed it to Tyler. David reportedly took offense at his remark. "It's out of context. Don't forget who helped you get here. Keep it in the family." Hearing those remarks rocked a guy whose reputation was based on devotion and faith. Not all of it was business. It was intimate. It was like being betrayed. The pressure increased. According to friends, David started to withdraw since he wasn't sure who he could rely on. According to some, he was counseled to keep quiet for the sake of their careers by a Tamala man who was also his wife and gospel partner. However, David was unable to ignore what was said or act as though it didn't matter. Finally, he made the decision that would ruin his life. After releasing the first tape, he is allegedly consulting with legal counsel to see whether releasing the second will result in justice or further mayhem. Not only is the content of this moment intense, but the silence that envelops it is as well. Hollywood people are aware of what transpired. No one is speaking, but many people have heard the tape behind closed doors. According to one insider, it's a combination of fear, influence, and power known as the Tyler effect. Because Tyler Perry is more than simply a filmmaker, he is a studio owner, a billionaire, and a man with strong connections to politics, the media, and well-known figures. Not only is it dangerous to cross him, but it may also kill your career. The tension inside Tyler Perry's world started to break when the first recording was made public, and there were whispers in secret circles about a second, even more explosive video. Something sinister was beginning to emerge beneath the glitzy headlines and glitzy performances. Several unnamed sources claimed that Perry's team had already entered full damage control mode. Public relations firms were putting in extra hours and discreetly contacting media outlets to stifle the news. Off the record, a few reporters even acknowledged that they were highly disinclined to report on the leak. This thing ran that deep. Let me tell you though, that turmoil was simmering behind closed doors despite the apparent stillness. Overnight, according to reports, the atmosphere within Tyler Perry Studios altered. According to one assistant, employees were avoiding social media, erasing old messages, and whispering in the halls. It was a genuine worry. Some people think there were other recordings. Others were simply afraid of being associated with the controversy. This is when it becomes even more unsettling. Although they were unable to talk in public, a number of insiders started to come out in private, claiming to have seen the same domineering behavior that David and Dar had detailed. Why? Due to strict NDAs and apprehension about reprisals. The criticism wasn't limited to those in the profession. One casting coordinator reportedly told a buddy, "If I even breathe the wrong thing about Tyler, I'll never work again. He'll erase me like I never existed." Even David Mann started to receive criticism. Sharp but quiet, the invitations to gospel gatherings ceased. Promoters started to pull away. His name was even taken from future ventures by some. The allegations that his own household was struggling were even more devastating. According to one gospel event organizer, David messed with the wrong machine. Now he's learning the cost. According to reports, Mann, who is well known for her chaste appearance and strong gospel affiliations, had decided not to openly endorse David's choice. There were arguments. According to whispers from the couple's close friends, Tamala was concerned that if she publicly supported him, it might harm her own reputation and career. Here's the problem though, it was no longer just about Dar or David. It has to do with the pattern, an all too familiar pattern in the entertainment industry. Strong men erect empires under the guise of empowerment, family, and faith, while concealing control and manipulation in the background. It becomes intriguing at this point. In real life, the same actor who established his career by portraying a figure who advocated justice and truth, such as Madhadia, was now being charged with stifling voices and undermining careers. It was difficult to overlook the inconsistency. Dar's remarks began to reverberate more strongly than before. One day someone closer will see it, someone brave enough. And when that happens, I pray they don't stay silent like I almost did. He had once issued a warning, and it turned out that someone might be David Mann. How much longer can this be buried? Became the major issue when rumors of other cassettes and even more identities surfaced. After all, if what David captured is just the beginning, the true narrative hasn't even begun yet. A close friend of David's who wished to remain anonymous said that Tyler isn't the only voice on the second tape. It purports to contain discussions with publicists, producers, and even well-known actors. According to reports, some of them were talking about how to manage stories, handle challenging talent, and keep things internal. According to one insider, Tyler purportedly described how he manipulated those around him by using personal secrets and background checks. According to reports, he said, "They think I don't know what they did in '05. Please, I don't even have to threaten them. I just make a few calls and they're done." That is the quote that, if true and made public, might ruin Tyler's reputation and legacy as a whole. David has yet to release the second recording. Why? Because people close to him say he's afraid, fearful of legal action, fearful of reprisals, and fearful that making it public could endanger his own family. Some others even think that David has already received a threat. Days after the initial leak, he uploaded a now-deleted social media message that wrote, "Sometimes truth costs more than silence, but peace is priceless." Fans who saw it before it disappeared described it as a cry for assistance. The most absurd aspect is that the general public pretends nothing is wrong while all of this is taking place. Just silence, no press conferences, no headlines, no interviews, and people are beginning to awaken in that silence. Uncertain clues are being dropped by former Perry associates. In a recent podcast interview, a well-known actress stated, "There's a lot I could say, but I won't. Not now. Maybe one day." Another actress wrote on Instagram, "Sometimes peace means walking away before you're pushed." Now that the truth was beginning to seep through, one thing became evident. It was more than just a scandal. The battle was between truth and silence. The walls surrounding Tyler Perry's empire also appeared to shake a bit more every day. Behind the scenes, Tyler's staff was already trying to safeguard what he had created as the public awaited the next shocking revelation. According to sources close to the studio, Tyler had started deleting old ties, cutting people out of his group, and subtly changing history. "He's cleaning the house," according to one insider. Anyone with too much knowledge was gone. No justification. However, what had previously occurred was not the true source of anxiety. It was about what might yet happen, because the consequences may be disastrous if David Mann made the second recording public. For everyone concerned, not just Tyler Perry, the names of producers, public relations managers, and other public persons who either condoned the behavior or said nothing about it were purportedly on the tape. According to reports, some people chuckled in the background. Others provided ways to deal with disruptive people. If confirmed, it would indicate that Tyler wasn't the only one with the problem. It was a systematic issue, and it had the power to overthrow several empires the instant that tape fell. Legal teams were reportedly swarming on both sides even today. According to reports, David engaged a lawyer with expertise in protecting whistleblowers. Tyler's team was purportedly drafting legal actions at the same time to stop any more disclosures. Although the legal battle had not yet gone public, insiders claimed it would happen soon. And that's when things took yet another odd turn. Online rumors started to circulate that there were more people with recordings than David. According to reports, at least 2 other former Perry employees had voice notes, conversations, or texts stored during their time working at the studio. "I'll share what I've been holding on to since 2018 if David drops the second tape," one of them allegedly wrote in an anonymous post. "This story wasn't going away. I assure you, it was steadily and silently growing." Fans didn't ignore it. Even though the media might have, they began investigating Tyler's previous interviews, tagging reporters, and requesting coverage. In a rediscovered 2014 tape, Perry was questioned about his approach to handling disputes. When he said, "I don't entertain drama, I move on. If someone betrays me, I just pray for them and close the door." It sounded mature at the time, but today it sounded more like someone who was accustomed to interrupting others without giving a reason. How does the gospel community fare? The same group that made David and Tamala Mann famous in the past. Well, things were changing even there. Fans were beginning to voice their opinions. Churchgoers started to wonder why religious leaders were remaining silent. Others drew attention to the paradox of promoting truth and forgiveness while ignoring someone who dared to reveal abuse. The pressure increased gradually. Soft murmurs became clamorous inquiries. David, on the other hand, was silent but resolute. According to those close to him, he was still undecided about the second cassette and prayed every day for clarity, protection, and direction. However, his thoughts were skewed in one direction. Let it go. This is where fate took a surprising turn. Because Tyler Perry was no longer the only focus of this. It had to do with fear, power, and the cost of remaining silent. It concerned Dar, a forgotten helper who attempted to voice his opinions but was disregarded. It was about David Mann, a devout man divided between truth and loyalty, and everyone was merely observing from the sidelines, speculating about the next domino to fall. In actuality, authority in Hollywood defends itself. However, even the toughest barricades start to crumble when enough people take a stance. Thus, the last question still stands. Will David Mann put everything on the line to reveal Tyler Perry's true thoughts to the world? Or will the machine try to quiet him the way it did? There is no doubt that this story is far from over. The current quiet may actually be the quiet before the storm, and Hollywood may face its largest reckoning in years if that storm materializes. Keep an eye out because, despite the world's best efforts to suppress it, the truth always finds a way to surface.